Hey guys, hope everybody's hanging in there. We're doing okay over here so far. It's not very much fun, but God willing, we'll get through this. God willing, we will learn something from this that God wants us to learn. Trying to keep trying to keep positive in that regard. Hopefully, things happen for His glory that I can contribute to through all of this. I'm weak. I really am. It's very hard. And I just, I'm afraid that it's just going to get harder. So, that being said, I went back in my archives a little bit. Sometimes I make videos and then I never post the videos on YouTube for one reason or another. I went back and I found a video that I did on Rock Harbor Church, Brandon Holthouse. I'm going to run this video today. I made it back in December before all of this stuff happened. And I just find it interesting to go back in time and look at what these people were saying months ago and compare it to what they must be saying today or must be thinking today. Because, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, all of these guys were saying, oh my goodness, the world is so crazy. Oh, it's so out of control, and none of them had any clue how much worse it would get. And the fact that they were talking about how out of control things were and how much more will we have to endure of this out of control world, Lord. Oh, and they had no idea how much worse it could get and still no rapture. That's my point. I'm going to play Brandon's little rant here, and then I'll transition to my older video that's, I guess 3 months old now to make my basic points. But here you go.
The question we want to address for us remnant believers is how much more do we have to endure?
Yeah, remnant believers. So that's a code word for people who sit around and fantasize about the rapture and about prophecy. Okay, people in his denomination that tend to follow this stuff, they refer to themselves as remnant believers, and they define that as people like them. So anybody who doesn't agree with Brandon and his view of the news, not really a good Christian. Okay, I'm just telling you that's how they think. I've listened to them for a long time. Sorry, but let me back this up again. I really, that phrase makes me cringe the way they use it. But listen carefully to how this man talks. He gives not one single actual real biblical response to evil in this video, other than hang on for just a little longer. We will soon be raptured. Just 1 second.
Or do we have to endure? And what I mean by that is every day things keep ramping up. We see gross immorality. We see what's happening in the Middle East. We see a culture, or basically the world, based on lies and propaganda. We see the movement of the one world government, the movement of the one world religion. And it makes us sick. It disgusts us, especially seeing the gross immorality that we see.
Notice how none of it is about him. None of it is about him and his gross sin or any of his weaknesses or any of the things he's doing. This all assumes that all the immorality and the gross sin around him is other people. See, because Brandon has done nothing to contribute to any of the evil on planet Earth. Brandon is good. He's a Christian remnant believer, and he's got a Star of David little flag in the background, an American flag. He probably voted for Trump 5 times. Sorry. So Brandon's good, everybody else evil. And Brandon can't wait for Jesus to come and kick butt. See, because Brandon really doesn't love the lost. Brandon wants to get out of here. That entire rant proves it. So here he is bemoaning all the wickedness around him and the end of, and how much longer, Lord, do we have to endure? How much longer do your saints, your pure white saintly saints, have to put up with this garbage? Right, Brandon? Do you do anything evil, Brandon, ever? Do you not sin? Are you not a contributor to all this garbage? Or are you just pure and holy all the time? Why don't you have a little more love for your neighbor and stop pointing the finger at them, because you would be on your way to hell too if it wasn't for the grace of God. You understand me? You would be on the way to hell. You guys are arrogant and full of pride. You think you deserve what you have? You don't. We are all sinners, just like those evil, rotten sinners that you talk about.
And the question a lot of remnant believers have is, how much more do we have to endure before the rapture? And that's a question that needs to be answered.
No, it isn't, Brandon. The question that needs to be answered is, how should we then live? How should a Christian respond to evil? And I'll tell you what the response should be, since you asked. It is a question that needs to be answered. How much longer do we have to put up with this sin before God takes us away? Brandon, I don't find a single verse in Paul's writings that say anything about that at all. You know what I find? Paul saying things like this, Romans 12:21, which I never, ever hear these remnant believers talk about. So they just skipped Romans 12. Well, let's just go up to here. How about this? Recompense to no man evil for evil. Live peaceably with all men. Does that include the people you don't like, Brandon? Yeah, it does. All men. These people are lost. They are lost. You and I would be on our way to hell ourselves if it wasn't for the grace of God. Avenge not. This is up to God to avenge. So stop being so angry all the time. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Here's my big point, though. Here's what we're supposed to be doing. Are we supposed to be sitting in our basement waiting for the rapture? No. Be not overcome of evil. Overcome evil with good. Brandon, you have a job to do. That's why God put you here. He didn't put you here to wait for him to rapture you. He put you here to do something.
Because we could go on for several years, decades, before anything really happens. And so you're going to see the buildup of a lot of things. And again, we're not predicting the date of when the Lord's returning, but we're saying we're in the season, as Paul said. We understand the season that we're in. We just don't know how long this season will go.
See, that's just utter nonsense. So I'm going to switch to my new video here. Utter nonsense to say we know we're in the season. Well, we just have no idea how long that season will be. That means everything is meaningless that you just said. If you're in a season and you have no idea how long it is, then what good does it do to know you're in a season? We're in a season that could last 10,000 years. Well, we know we're in the season, though. I mean, it's utter nonsense. So I'm going to switch to the other video here. I'm going to edit that in, and hopefully you guys can get something out of it. Hey, you guys, I caught a piece of this man's prophecy update the other day, and it just got me thinking about, again, whether or not these end times experts, end times hobbyists are really serious about what they're saying. So they come across as if they're really serious. If you watch this prophecy update from this pastor, Brandon Holdhouse, he'll say, he spends quite a bit of time, 30 minutes, going through, here's why we have to endure all this horrible things going on in the world, the evil we see around us, the scary things, the horrible. How much longer, Lord, do we have to endure these things? That's the theme of his video. And he says basically in the video, until God decides to pull us out, and that's happening very soon. Hold on a little longer. It's going to happen soon. We're out of here. All these things will be a long lost memory, and Jesus is going to make everything great again, and we're going to be done very soon. Then he says this at the end of his video.
Well, as you know, we are in our building campaign for our church building. We meet in the high school. We don't have a building of our own, and we're trying to raise about $3 million to build a metal building here in California, which is very expensive, and we have about 6 acres, and to have our own place so we can do more ministry and expand our ministry. So if you would like to do a year-end gift, you can donate to Rock Harbor Church, P.O. Box 10868, Bakersfield, California, 93389.
All right, so asking for money is fine. He's a nonprofit. He's looking to build a building, which is okay. I don't have a problem per se with that. But Pastor Brandon, you've got dozens of videos on your YouTube channel where over and over and over again, you push this notion that we are at the end. Jesus is at the door. We are not going to be here much longer. So why are you raising money, $3 million, to build a building? There's plenty of buildings around. You guys are clearly not suffering right now horribly. There are Christians in China that have to meet in, the basements of tiny buildings in fear of their lives or being, sent to jail. There are many, many millions of Christians who meet in homes around the world every Sunday or every twice a week, and worship the Lord out of their home. They don't have these sophisticated buildings. And I'm not putting down the notion of having a building per se, but Brandon, we're in the last days of the last moments. So here's what I'm trying to get at, okay? And I caught Jan Markell mocking what I just said once. She's like, why do you have a building campaign if it's the end of time? Ha ha ha! And she laughs at it, and it's like, no, why do you have a building campaign? $3 million could go a long way towards spreading the gospel in these last moments. So, Brandon, here's my point with all this. Let me throw you a scenario. What if the entire world knew without a doubt, it's absolute truth, there's no denying it, that within 12 to 24 months from today, the world was going to be struck by a major asteroid, which has happened, okay? And, scientists were a little bit divided on how bad it was going to be, but certainly for sure, billions of people would be affected. Maybe 1 billion or 2 billion would die. We would see entire cities wiped out. Probably plant life would suffer tremendously, so people would be starving. I mean, we're talking about a horrible, horrible thing going to happen. Absolutely going to happen. Okay? Now, how would people react if they knew about this? I suppose the atheist or non-Christian world would react with, well, it's a party. I'm just going to have as much fun as I can before we're done, right? They would just live it up and probably commit crimes that they normally wouldn't do. And who cares? It's all over, right? The Christians would be spending all of their time. How would their attitude change? How would my attitude change if I really believed that, if I really knew that was going to happen? Would I spend any money on anything extraneous? Or would I spend my time really out there talking to people that I knew and talking to strangers and saying, we're all going to die. And it's within a few months to a couple of years at the most. You need to get right with the Lord before it's time, because it's coming and we know it. Would we be raising $3 million to build a new church? What's the point? What's the point? So I'm only trying to make this point. This man obviously doesn't really believe with his whole heart that what he is saying is true. His opening monologue here is, how much more do we have to endure? We got world government coming. We've got, politicians cheating us. We've got such wickedness and evil. How much longer? Well, don't worry, not much longer, right? You go to his web page, his YouTube page channel here,
Hi
and
out
all of his
there
videos look like this. They're all, it's the last days. Anyway, I could just go on. It's all over his channel. He's just like all the other ones. They all talk this way. Do they really believe it? And it's clear that they don't. They don't actually believe what they're saying, because if they did, they wouldn't be worried about a building, a brand new building, much less. So that's why I call it a hobby. And hobby it's a pejorative word. It's kind of making light of what they're doing. But what I mean by this is subject matter that a lot of people enjoy thinking about. It's a form of escapism. It's a form of trying to explain why things are the way they are. And it's fun to fantasize about heaven. I mean, look, what could be better than an eternity with the Lord, with all of your problems gone, nothing but bliss and happiness, no sin, all perfection, no pain, no suffering, no death, all of your loved ones there for eternity. I mean, what could be better than that? So it's fun to think about that, and it's fun, really fun to think about it potentially happening within the next few days or weeks, right? And some people I come across online are, they're just tired of this life and the dreariness of it and the problems and the I caught one guy literally saying, and I thought he was joking at first. This was a pastor standing behind a pulpit. He said, yeah, guys, I understand what it's like. I don't want to get up and go to work tomorrow either. We all wish for the rapture. And I'm like, really? He was being absolutely serious. He doesn't want to go to work. That's why he wants to get raptured. So it's escapism. And life is rough. But, at the end of the day, this is more enjoying a subject and talking about it. And then if you're a guy like Barry Scarborough or some of these other guys that are just, there's a few people like, oh, there's this guy, Watchman for That Great Day. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but this guy, like, he's like a hermit and like does his videos out of the closet, and like he's clearly got a few issues. And I'm just going to make I'm just going to make a statement that I think is probably true. This guy probably couldn't get 15,000 people to listen to what he says in any other context, but but the end is near, and I have YouTube to tell people about it. Back in the old days, he might have been one of those guys with a sandwich board walking around downtown that people know and they kind of ignore, and he might run into 3 or 4 people a day where he has a discussion with them. He's got a YouTube channel that gets thousands of views every time he puts a video up. Okay, that's really exciting and fun for these people. They can't believe that thousands of people care about what they say. It's crazy. So they are enjoying themselves. Trust me, that's what it's all about, because they do not really believe it. And then number 4 on there, this really got me. I mean, I just couldn't even believe this. So they all want you to think that they're more pious than you because they fantasize about heaven. Because, if you're not sitting around thinking about heaven all day, then you're not really a good Christian. You're too tied to this earth. You're too tied to this world, they'll say. Don't you believe that. That is a lie. It does not make you more holy and pious if you fantasize about going to heaven. I may as well be fantasizing about going and winning the lottery. That is not making you holier, okay? You're more holy if you go through suffering and trials in this life for the Lord and endure them patiently and produce good fruit. That's holiness. Not sitting around on your hands fantasizing about the next life, because anybody can do that. That's not holiness. So don't you listen to these people who say that. If you don't listen to me, if you don't believe what I say, if you don't follow me on YouTube, if you don't come to my conferences, you're not really a good Christian. You're one of the apostates. You need to be in the remnant. I'm going to do a whole video on that some other time, but here's JD Farag.
I'm even uncomfortable when someone refers to me as a prophecy expert. That's not a title I wear very well. It doesn't feel good, doesn't fit right for me. I don't see myself as a prophecy expert. I really see myself as a donkey through whom God can speak. And I really mean that. And I'm not just a donkey, I'm an Arab donkey. And please know that nobody is more shocked that God speaks through a donkey than the donkey. And I think about with Balaam, how shocked that donkey must have been.
So in another place he says, don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. Don't call me an expert. Don't put that on me. Now, I understand JD's point to a certain extent. Yeah, he wants to be humble. He doesn't want to be looked up to as, hey, you're the ultimate authority. But you know what, JD? You're the one who every week does a prophecy update. You're the one who spends, in your own words, hours putting it together every week. You're the one who studies and looks at things and puts the puzzle pieces together. You're the one who's doing all that. Nobody's making you do that. So if you don't want to be called an expert at something, then stop putting out so much content on it. So here's my thought, you guys. Here's what they want. They want to feel the important piousness of the whole thing. They want to feel like they're listened to. Mark my words. Make no mistake. JD Farag wants to be listened to. JD Farag wants you to believe him. He's like, oh, don't make me the expert. What? JD Farag wants you to listen to him and believe what he says. Trust me, that's what he wants. Here's what he doesn't want. He doesn't want accountability. He doesn't want to be held to what he says. Hey, everybody, it's fun to talk about prophecy. It's fun to think about the future. But you know what? Don't take it too seriously. Like, don't go selling everything you have. Don't take it too seriously. I mean, come on, And yet they stand behind a pulpit. They open up their Bibles. They talk about themselves as the remnant church. They talk about themselves as true spiritual believers who really love the Lord, and anyone who disagrees is a mocker and a scoffer and a sinner and apostate. But don't really believe me that much, because I mean, we're only human. Don't you see the issue with that? Don't you see the problem with that? Thanks for listening.